Hey guys, it's Esme. So I am doing another video review. I hopefully will have the written reviews for this coming up shortly. I have Sunday off, so I'm just going to try and just transcribe what I did on the video so people have a written version. The videos are nowhere near as popular as my written version, so I do apologize. I will do both. So anyway, this is going to be for A Touch of Light for SPFBO. Kristen will not be reviewing this one, so once again, I'll be the only score for this. Okay, so this is super complicated, and I read it back when it was announced, and so I went to go film a review, and I just kind of stared at the screen. I was like, I need a refresher. It's really complicated. And I originally just went back to skim and refresh my memory, and I ended up just reading the whole thing over again because I was really enjoying myself. The first time through, I was struggling because I didn't always understand what was going on. There are 3 different POVs. They are all in different areas of this world. They all have their own thing going on. You're not quite sure how they all relate to each other, and you're learning totally different societies with no hand-holding, as they say. All of the world building is done without info dumps or without any like blatant explanation. So you're basically left to figure it all out on your own, which I actually I like it, but it also frustrates me because I'm like, what? It makes me think. And you know, I have to be in the mood to sit down and like really read between the lines and remember details and connect them together. But if you really enjoy that kind of thing, which a lot of people do, people like Malazan, this is the book for you. These characters are they do not follow a character type. Maybe Adrian does because he's like a prince, but the other two, Lynn and Nasha, they don't really have a character type. So Adrian is the prince, and his brother just died, and he was the older brother, so now he is the heir. And he has a pretty tense relationship with his father for a whole bunch of reasons. And what's odd about this society, and what's pretty unique, because I've never seen this explored this way, you're not supposed to talk about the dead at all. You're not supposed to... Even if it's like a family member, you're supposed to just forget they exist. Oh my god, I have something in my eye. Sorry about that. So you're supposed to like forget they exist. And this is like really painful for him on a bunch of levels. He's also lost his wife. So at the beginning, he's a pretty broken person. And he's looking for explanations of what happened to his brother because he was sent abroad, died in a foreign land, and he doesn't know what happened because you're not even supposed to talk about how somebody died. Like once the body is burned, you are gone forever. So the reason for that is in their religion, their goddess is the goddess of life. And so if she finds you worthy, she will give you eternal life. And there are people walking around who are 100, 200, 400 years old who are like the holy figures of this religion, sentinels. And so if she finds you unworthy, you die. And that's why you're not spoken about again. Now, I think there's a lot of just logistic problems with this, especially if you're going to be talking about military planning. Are you supposed to learn from your mistakes if you can't talk about people that died and how they died? You know, history becomes almost non-existent. So I had a lot of questions, but it was a really interesting society to read about. There were a lot of answers to questions I had. It definitely felt like a real religion. I just had questions. And so then we have Nasha, who is like this, I don't even know how to describe her, like this wild woman almost. So she comes from like something called the slopes. So she's trying to go from being a sloper, which are like these downtrodden people, into the Ronar, and they're like this clan who are like these, so they worship like strength, and if you're considered weak, you are basically murdered and given to the earth, because in their religion you kill people to keep the ground alive. Like when you sacrifice people, sometimes the ground, like it turns green, it starts growing stuff, and so it's like opposite ends of the spectrum here for religion. And so she's a pretty brutal character, and she's struggling with this, what she calls a curse. And she's able to sense the emotions of other people, so she kind of knows where everyone is. She makes a good scout, makes a good hunter, because she can sense people around her. But the thing is, she can become overwhelmed. And, like, if she gets too angry, if she can't control herself, bad shit happens. And she keeps thinking to herself, I'm not a monster, I'm not a monster, I'm not a monster. So she's definitely an outcast in her society. She's struggling to fit in. And then we have Lynn. So Lynn is a sentinel, right? She's like 160 years old. I liked her character the best. I found her the most interesting. And she's got voices in her head of all of her friends that she's killed. And you don't know why she's killed them. But she feels bad about it, and they're haunting her. And I'm not entirely sure if they're actually in her head or if it's just her having a psychological breakdown. Like, I'm not sure if it's magic, like those are actually those people in her head, or if she's just fucking batshit. It could be either. Again, I don't totally understand what I read even on the second way through. But I do understand a whole lot more on the second read through. And so Lynn is struggling with basically everything. She's been kicked out of the Sentinels because she's just so tired of killing. The Sentinels are there to kill people so that other people don't have to bear that burden. And she's just haunted by death. She hates it. And so her struggle with her religion, with her choices in life, with the voices in her head were all really interesting. And like I said, they were all doing their own thing. And like at the end, things start to come together, and I think I know where this is going. There is book 2. I almost never go to book 2, but I think I might go to book 2 on this one. Like I said, the writing was just super professional. It just flowed. If you're going to write a book this complicated, if the prose weren't as strong as they were, I would have been struggling hard, and I probably would not have done a full read through on the second time around. I just found the characters really engaging and very different. These are definitely, quote, morally gray characters. I would go so far as to say they're beyond that, especially with Nasha. Like, she kills people a lot because they're weak, because they saw her doing something and she doesn't want them to tell. So she's basically a murderer. So she has definitely a darker aspect to her. Lynn, I guess, would be, she's tired of the killing. She doesn't want to do it anymore. She's trying to protect people as best she can. So I guess she's on the lighter aspect. And then, Adrian's kind of in the middle. He has an interesting arc where he gets named Lord of Light, and it goes to his head. And he just starts making reckless decisions that end up pretty bad sometimes. This is definitely a second world fantasy. There are griffins, there's magic, there's the undead. So a big part of this story is there's this madness going around, and people are losing themselves, almost like the rage virus you see in movies sometimes. Like they're dead, but they're also like they're running at you. They're not just like mindless shambling zombies. They're running at you, and they're crazed, they're rabid. And the sickness is kind of spreading, and what it turned out to be was interesting. So yeah, I recommend this. I don't think it'll be for everybody. I think, this is going to be for people who have the time to really sit down and read between the lines and make connections on their own, and who are ready for a big epic story, because this is just the beginning. It's the first of what I think could be many, because it's just such a big setup. Like, it's got to be going somewhere huge, I think. So epic fantasy, but it's not done yet. There's a second book. So for SPFBO, I'm giving this a 7.5 out of 10. I will leave the breakdown for everything hopefully this weekend for all the things that I've reviewed so far. Thank you so much for watching. I'm trying to keep these under 10 minutes, and I keep running almost to the 10-minute mark. Ugh.